Salutations, savage superheroes. We're going to get started here with the actual stream in about 5 minutes, but while everyone from all the platforms gets their notifications and comes in and submits their questions for Shane Hensley on this wonderful live week 2 of the Game Changer for the Superpowers Companion. I'll just fool around for about 5 minutes, letting you guys know. Let's see, we're in week 2. There's 14 days left, so there's 2 weeks left in the campaign, and we have already snagged 1,270 backers. That's fantastic. That's really the number we look at. Dollars are great, but backers are more important to us. That really shows us that we're which audience we're targeting and we're meeting their needs. But we are well over 65K, almost 66K right now. And let's go count how many how many stretch goals we've unlocked. I think there's 8 published. I think we're through 7 of them. So we've unlocked the Vasori. We've unlocked the do-it-yourself VTT for everybody for free. We've got the archetype pulp cards, the Street Fighter cards, the heavy hitter cards, the cosmic level cards, and then we've also unlocked the adventure deck cards. I love adventure deck. The adventure deck is so much fun. So there are, let's see, on that one, there are 4 additional adventure deck cards you can add to your deck. That's pretty exciting. And then, there's only 1 remaining stretch goal that has not been unlocked yet that we've announced. So, and we're getting close to that one. So in the next couple of days, when you guys unlock that one, we're going to have to get to work as a team to do some more stretch goals. So that's pretty exciting. Thank you guys for all of the early excitement. Just to let you guys know, we are streaming on Twitch, on Facebook, and YouTube, so your platform of choice. You submit your comments on there. Let's see, on the initial post, if you're on Facebook, there's a little opt-in if you want to use your name that you go to. It's like a StreamYard link that you can, show your name so we can tell who's leaving comments. And it's all interactive. Submit your questions for Shane. And other than that, guys, we got what, 2 or 3 more minutes? Got 3 more minutes before we'll get started in earnest, and we'll get Shane on here. But we see Scott and Jonathan Yale and Nickelberg already getting the questions in. So whether platform of choice, or you're on Facebook or YouTube or on Twitch, shoot in those questions and we will get those up on screen. Look, John Doom giving me a shout out. Thanks, John. John is one of our long-term subscribers. Thank you. I think we've got, as long as we've got 2 minutes to burn, I think we're close to 1,000 followers on Twitch. I think we're at 980. So we only need 20 more of your friends out there to follow us on Twitch, and we'll be at 1,000. So if you haven't shared our Twitch link yet, it's twitch.tv/PegInc. And you guys can follow us, and so you'll get notified when we do all of these live casts, as well as the actual plays we have in store for you and all that goodness. So our Twitch schedule is filling up. We're doing a lot of good fun stuff for you guys. So follow us on Twitch. And then otherwise, we'll get started here really quickly. So yeah, thanks again. If you guys haven't seen the campaign page yet, it's at peginc.com. When you go to Peg Inc., you can see, let me see if I can make this a little more full screen. Let's see, solo layout, boom. Okay, so when you're at peginc.com, right here up at the top in the middle, Superpowers Companion, click that button. That will take you directly to the Superpowers Companion page, which you see below. And there we go, so it reloaded. And you can see, oh, here we go. We are at 66,000 while I was talking, so you guys are fantastic. Thank you for throwing more support behind this campaign. So you can see there are 3 levels of products. We've got the digital, just the book, as well as the digital, and then the everything all in with the pawns and all the stretch goals. And then one thing we like to see on when we set these kind of goals is that each of them are well filled out. And you guys apparently like what we're offering. There's 338 backers for the digital, 414 for just the book, and 519 for the everything. We like to see that. Just make sure that the products that we're offering and how we're offering them to you fit your needs. So we think we're doing that. And so yeah, thank you guys. And we got about a couple seconds left. So let's bring on Shane, and we will get to your right. Mo pawns, mo better. Absolutely. So let's bring on Shane, and we'll get to your questions, guys. So we'll get started here. What we got? We 30 seconds. Oh, no, we're 5 seconds to the hour. So just in time. Let's see. Exit solo layout. Boom. Welcome, Shane. How you doing, amigo? Oh, I think. Oh, there we go. You're muted. Your mic. We muted your mic.
Hello.
Welcome, sir.
I'm here and ready to go.
Oh, fantastic. So the yeah, this. So I'll take privilege. I'll ask the first question. The This is a new way of reaching our backers and to do a we're calling it a game changer. So what is a game changer, sir, and why are we going down this path as a company?
Yeah. Wow, what a deep question. So, Kickstarter's great. We will continue to use Kickstarter. We'll be using Kickstarter for Holler, which is coming up uh, prior to and ending just after Halloween. So you'll see that soon. But we've had some pretty phenomenal growth over the last year and a half, 2 years, and we need a platform that we own for a couple of reasons. First is if you get too backed up on Kickstarter, say you've got two, maybe three projects that haven't actually delivered yet, even though they're en route from the printer, and you've got a good track record for delivering, they could shut you down, right? They don't like to have people have more Kickstarters than or out than they've actually delivered, and we respect that and we get that and we think that's a good thing in general. Uh, we have to use crowdfunding not to pay for our products. We're in really good shape these days thanks to our just amazing fans that keep us going. But for marketing, there's just no good way to get the word out about our products. There's no central magazine that everybody reads anymore, or central website they go to. There's a few that they go to, and we advertise on them. But we just need a way to reach people. And more importantly, I play the damn game and I want all the extra stuff that we make because we're able to crowdfund. We can't do single packs of archetype cards and adventure cards and all the cool extra stuff that we make through retail. It's just you can't package that stuff. The store's not going to carry it. And, we love stores. We support them. We have a direct retailer list that they can get on and buy from us through our partners at Studio 2 and their distributor. So we have all kinds of ways to support retailers. But we all know that most stores carry D&D, maybe some Pathfinder and Magic, right? And that's the main things, and whatever board games are hot at the time, and whatever RPG the store owner's into. And I get that. I owned a store for 10 years, totally understand. So this is our way to reach people. I also grew up in a really rural area in Southwest Virginia. We didn't have game stores or bookstores or any of that stuff. So even back then, I was mail ordering things, and these days it's just so much easier. And one of the reasons that we brought it to our site, besides being able to post products more frequently, so we didn't have to wait, we got to wait 3 months to make sure Kickstarter doesn't get upset that we've still, this last one is still delivering or something, is it is fully integrated with our entire store. So we all know shipping prices, especially our international customers, shipping prices is out of control, right? There's nothing we can do about it. We've done everything we can. We use a super affordable FedEx program to deliver. It tracks and delivers really quickly. It's better than anything we've done before, but that only goes to certain places. We've used freight forwarders in both the EU and Australia. We still do it for Australia and New Zealand, but it's just expensive. And every time you ship to a freight forwarder and they have to repack it and all this stuff, you have to pay all those labor costs too. So what we want to do, since there's only so much we can do there, we want our international customers to say, hey, you know what? There's this new book on Pinnacle, and it's going to cost a buttload in shipping, but we can order all this other stuff while we're at it. And hey, buddy, that plays with me, would you like another copy of Suede, or would you like to pick up Ripper's Resurrected that you missed out on before? So you get this huge package, and our shipping caps out for international customers. I won't say what it is because Jody might have changed it, but you could order a whole bunch of stuff, and that shipping is going to be maxed out at a certain pretty reasonable level for that. So that's a long-winded way to say there's a lot of reasons that we're trying this. There have been some glitches with our crowdfunding software. Yeah, it's showing expired on iOS devices, it seems. You can't go back and add to your order just yet. And there's a few other things that some people have spotted. But for our first launch, I'm pretty happy with it. The orders are going through, orders are secure. There's no issues there. And we've got a great list we're going to be able to put together at the end when we ship the PDF out to everybody. So I hope that was a comprehensive answer.
Yeah, no, a pretty fantastic answer. And the just to let people know, like just because it's not on Kickstarter doesn't mean that you're not getting kind of all the awesome fun stuff that you get from
Oh, yeah.
Kickstarters. So I mean, not only do we have the stretch goals, but like I got a package that came in while I was at Deadwood. It just showed up, and from Studio 2, and the blood drive is actually pretty comparable to like the supers, right? I mean, it's very similar to what we're offering. So we know you guys love unboxings, so let's dig into this and just see what goodies we have here. And it's similar to the goodies that we're offering for the Superpower Companion. So let's see. And that's the other thing you mentioned too is the fact that one of the reasons we want to do it on our own site is that when we added bubble wrap, just pop those, like real good. When we added like Pledge Manager stuff, you can add the entire back catalog of Pinnacle products, right? And that for when we do like Savage Pathfinder or Rifts or Deadlands, and we use a Pledge Manager, use Kickstarter, we have to go through and just select what products we want to add to that Pledge Manager,
and we have to do it by hand.
Yeah, right.
It takes a lot of work.
Yeah. So
and those are great. We love Pledge Manager. They're good friends of ours. Yeah. You have to, but we do have to set up this huge spreadsheet every time and update it, and that takes a lot of people hours.
Right, and it's a little outside of what those platforms were designed for, right? I mean, like Kickstarter was designed mostly for like the one product that you're gonna be adding to, not necessarily your whole back catalog. And they've recently added add-ons, but man, can you imagine how complicated that page would be if we put 1,000 products on there? So the nice thing about the kind of the core, and kind of I think why we did the Superpower Companion on our own site is that it's such a core product that it really is about if Suede were an extra 200 pages, you could put the Superpower Companion in Suede, right? And then put,
That's right.
So because it's really that product, doing it on our site is really kind of the best. So, oh my God, all the goodies are the thing. So let's see. Blood Drive, lovely book, capped out at about 96 pages. So Superpower Companion will be twice as thick. Because we're at what 192?
192, yeah.
And but same, it'll be hardcover and all the lovely glossy pages. And that's what I really like about, we've had lots of people comment. And like, here's the crazy thing. Price per page on this Superpower Companion is the same or better than the previous Superpower Companion. And it's been some years and some inflation between guys. So I know you guys have been asking about map packs. Love these maps. We will be doing more maps in the future. So don't worry. I know some people were wondering where the maps are for the SPC. The good news on those is they're not going to be in this campaign, but some of the things that were going to be in this campaign have gotten to be big enough to be their own things. So
I'll talk more about maps in a minute too, because there's some other cool little reveals we can talk about.
Ooh, fun. And then the big thing I think you guys are really interested in are all these pawns. And as you can see, they are nice and thick. They are, for your gaming table. They're not paper thin. They're nice and thick. And then the best part is you get front art and back art. So let's see. You can see like.
Actually, the best part is they're die cut. So if you don't know what that means, hold that up there, Chris. The laser that cuts them out goes around the individual figure to the specifications we give it. Okay. So what that means is it's not just a little bit cooler and prettier, but when you've got a bunch of these things on the table, the silhouette of your guy is very recognizable. So when you've got, 20 pawns out, because hey, it's Savage Worlds, right? It's much easier to tell your guy from the others. And that's a really cool thing. And as far as I know, nobody else has done that yet. So I love the piezo pawns, for example, but they're the rounded, like tombstone shaped kind of things. Great. I love those too. But, we wanted to go the extra mile, and we did. And here they are. You can thank Simon Lucas for that.
Yeah, a lot of work on those. Simon and Jess have definitely been put in the great work to figure out all these. Yep. And the nice thing is, so they pop out really easily, even the hard big ones. But that's a nice.
And cleanly, they don't tear.
Right? Didn't screw up the art. But I love that they're like even the ox cart has back art. I mean,
well, actually, it's a different side, right? One's empty and one's not, so you can use it either way you want. The figures have back art, but the 2D stuff like cars and so on will have different art.
So yeah, that's pretty fantastic. The even the fire. So the fire has like the fire's on, fire's off. So a lot of thought went into these to make them like really useful for your gaming table. And so currently there are going to be more pawns for the Superpowers Companion as well, right? So that's
Yeah, we added a whole bunch more, and we're going to make pawns of all those archetypes we unlocked too. So, we don't have the art yet because, we had no idea how this was going to go and if we were going to unlock them. But I posted this the other day. I turned in the art order for all those new archetypes we unlocked. And man, I love supers. It's one of my favorite genres, right? And being able to create all those characters and go order the art for them and then get the pawns and then have them there to play with. Oh my God, it's so cool. And man, those Deadlands pawns were such a hit at Deadwood, weren't they? For those who don't know, we had our Deadwood 25th anniversary celebration for Deadlands that Chris put together. It was fantastic. And I think everybody there was using, I guess a couple of people had painted miniatures like Carl Kiesler, of course, overachiever. But, so many of us were using the pawns, and they're so great for travel, but they just look good. They match exactly the archetype card that you were playing. Just love them. The team has just done an amazing job there.
Yeah, that's the fun part. And especially in I finally got to play with John Goff. I played in one game, and John Goff did a special night train. It was like a 2-session night train. And then Savage Saturday Night, he did a special, first he's ever done like a grinder where people could just come in, sit down, play a character, and you were probably going to die, but you could sit and play your character. And I think I went through 3 characters. And just the fact that the archetypes he made up just matched the pawns. I mean, it's super easy, right? Just you grab your archetype, there's the picture, find your pawn. And so even though we had people coming and going in that game, no one was confused on, who was who, where, it was really nice to be able to have the variety. See, he had, I think, 30 some characters to choose from.
Yeah, I heard about it. That sounded great. I had to run games, so I didn't get to play. But, I played in something similar last weekend. Carl Kiesler's Sharkano, which is not Sharknado. It's the volcano, right? And he has a funnel type system as well. In fact, it's hilarious because every time you roll a critical failure, you die.
Instant death.
It's the death. And you get to kind of narrate it with him. But what's cool is there's a stack of characters that you play, right? Everyone is hilarious. We wound up at the end with the local deputy, which was actually useful. My character somehow survived the whole time, even though I had 3 wounds. I was the local dog catcher who believed dogs could talk. So therefore, sharks could probably talk. But Mike Barbeau, our Savage Pathfinder line editor, he wound up with the Bubble Boy. Which, in the middle of a flaming shark attack, was perhaps not the most useful character to have, but Mike made it work, and it was amazing.
During the flood one, he's really good during the flood one, though, because he floats, right? So when the town is flooded,
we looked that up.
Apparently not.
We decided he did in the cinema version, yeah. But no, he did great. It was hilarious. Carl's a fantastic GM. His partner, Chris Warner, made that with him. And, I highly recommend buy everything Doghouse Rules makes. I won't go into a whole licensing spiel, but man, we have some amazing licensees that publish stuff. And if you go to Drive-Thru RPG, for example, and you look at the Savage Worlds Adventure Guild, you can see everything from the pros like Carl, who has incredible graphic design and art and so forth, down to amateurs who don't have that ability or the art and the money to put into it, but their writing and their design. There's some really good stuff on there. So, much like what we're doing with supers, it's just really cool to see what people can do with the tools that we make.
Yeah, and they're doing a big bundle. I think they're calling it Swag Timber. So there's a huge, big swag for all the Savage Worlds swag community on Drive-Thru RPG. So if you want to get a super deal on a bunch of different products, the Swag Timber bundle, I think we'll have it in the Tuesday email. We'll definitely have a link there. But otherwise, look it up. It's a pretty good deal. And
that's awesome. I didn't know about it.
Right. And then I think the other cool thing we're doing, I think this is going to go live tomorrow, is there's a Hurricane Ida bundle. And I'm pretty sure Pinnacle tossed in some goodies into that as well.
Yep. Great job. I think John Lafayette put that together. John Lafferty. John Lafferty. Yeah. Sorry, John.
Also an ace.
Yep. One of our aces. So for those who don't know, we have aces that we officially approve and say, hey, you make, grade A material that we think can be in game stores, right? That's a certain category of licensees, but anybody can make stuff and publish it on Drive-Thru RPG through the SWAG, Savage Worlds Adventure Guild program. And, that's a good way to kind of get attention of our various publishers, including us and other aces as well, if you're looking to break into the industry. Can I answer a few of these questions over here?
Sure. Let's see. Jimmy Vance got a really good one. What do you consider the best revision to a pre-existing superpower?
That is a good one. I'm looking at the Twitch questions, so I'll answer those next. So I'll answer that one first. Best revision. I'm going to get into the weeds here a little bit. In the previous edition, tune out if you don't want to know rule stuff. This is going to be pretty deep. In the previous edition, if you wanted to make Thor with Mjolnir, okay, you would make melee attack and you'd make it, as big as you could make it and add in everything you wanted and just, call it a device Mjolnir. Well, that's great, but what it didn't do is, what about when Thor doesn't have his hammer and he just wants to bash guys? He's still got a high strength and he can do pretty well there, but he's not going to do anywhere near what he did with that power. So you either had to create another power like Thor's fists, or you just, you were going to be without that big plus. So this took a lot of playtesting and messing around. So in the current version, you're going to buy your melee attack as a number of D6s, right? So I'm Batman and I'm really skilled. I'm Thor, I'm really strong. And it's going to add to your strength, of course, too. But then something like Mjolnir will be a special weapon that adds on top of it. So Thor is going to be able to punch, the Hulk or the Wrecking Crew or whoever he needs to punch really hard with his fists. And then when he picks up Mjolnir, he's really going to tear into him. Same with like a Wolverine, right? A character. He can punch really hard, but if he schnicks the claws, it's going to be even more deadly, right? So that is a bit nerdy and down in the weeds, but it's an important, it kind of gives you some insight to how we approach the powers, as well as just updating them to match some of the mentality of Suede and, things like tests and distraction and bound and entangled and all the terms we've kind of solidified that might have been a bit hit or miss before.
Perfect. So yeah, just shoot out a question and I'll post it on screen when you let me know which one.
Okay, so I'm going to do John Dooms. He says don't answer because it's super dorky, but I'm going to answer anyway, John. It's just fine. Is shipping still primarily based on last mile, or does everyone pay the whole way these days? Jody would answer that best, but I'm pretty sure, from what I've seen in the past, if you live in California, it's going to be more expensive than if you live in Tennessee. Our warehouse is in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's where Studio 2 is. So that's domestic. International is based on weight, but it is capped, right? So again, if you missed it before, if you order a whole bunch of stuff, once you hit a certain amount in shipping, you're not going to pay any more shipping. And this is a great time to get on that.
And then folks who want a quote, with our own crowdfunding site, put the items in your cart, and before you check out, it'll give you the exact quote to your location. So you can, if you want a quote for like, hey, where am I? What's my shipping quote? Right. You can get all that done specific to you before you check out.
Right. Yep. So it'll tell you exactly what it'll cost. Is Storn Cook doing some of the art? Storn is not doing art for this one. Love Storn, great guy. We loved his work in the original. We commissioned all new art for this because we need to own it. We have just all kinds of stuff in the works with licensing, and now we have Red and Gabe from Suede, and they are in Supers. So we have our own stable of characters. Our archetypes that we created are they're in a lot of the example art in Supers. So we just need to own those IPs, and the art that Storn gave us before, he either owns or the people who commissioned him to do it owns. But love Storn, love his stuff. Wish him all the best in the world. That's all I see on Twitch.
Okay, nice. Then let's go through some of the other questions we've got. Here's a fun one from Jonathan Yale. How much do I need to pay to make Shane run an actual play? We haven't gotten Shane running a game yet, I don't think, on stream. So,
I ran the entire horror at Headstone Hill for Deadlands. It was during the pandemic and everything was shut down, and some of our players were far away anyway. I ran the entire thing on VTT. I would be pretty comfortable doing it these days, I think. A pretty good sized campaign. So maybe I'll do something like that soon.
Nice. Well, thanks for poking the boss on that one. The Dinkelberg68 on YouTube asks, how are super speedsters balanced in the book?
How do they balance? Well, I mean, everything's a point cost, right? It's just like it's very similar to the previous version. I don't want people to go into it thinking this is an all new, completely different system. It's the same system. So if you liked it before, you'll like it now. If you didn't like it before, you won't like it now. But it is cleaned up, streamlined, and there's more powers that we didn't have before. There's a whole lot more modifiers that are more clear and standardized throughout, so it's easier to build your guy. We played Necessary Evil 3 a year ago. I'll happily talk about that as well. And some people who are not really into comics and had never made characters before easily made 75 point heavy hitter or cosmic level power characters, in 20 minutes. So it was really nice. And of course, you can be more complicated there and take lots of fiddly powers with lots of modifications and get really in the weeds yourself, how you want to design them. Or you can do like what my wife did. She made Vera Smash, which was a super powered, like not a wrestler, but like an ultimate boxing kind of fighter, but in a superhero ring. And so Vera Smash was her character, and she just had a huge strength and huge toughness and could punch like, she could punch planets, right? And she was hilarious. And then stinking Tracy Sizemore, for those of you who know Tracy, turned it around and made her a villain we had to fight in the next game we played. And we were all pulp level. So, oh my gosh. Like, way to make a brute, Michelle.
I love playing Michelle. Michelle was in that John Goff game that I was in. And after I think we ran through 3 or 4 characters who died, she and I escaped because we happened to luck out, and our new characters were spawned in the livery. And so we just got on horses and left. So we didn't beat the night train, but we left everybody else.
You escaped the night train. That's important. I see a couple more over here on Twitch. I'll grab Chris. What will the retail price of the SPC be? It's 192 page hardback. It is $39.99. Same as all our books, that price. John Doom says he works at a children's hospital. He loves Red and Gabe. Sure appreciate that. If you haven't noticed what's going on in Suede, Red and Gabe have a story to them that's sort of revealed in the last piece of art in the book. Country Gaming says, that sounds like me. Are there any rules for buying super vehicles like the Batmobile or Blue Beetle's Bug with PowerPoints? Not at the moment, but there are vehicles in there that you can buy. We're working on the Sci-Fi Companion too, so it's we're debating some things there. So let me get back to you on that one. Are you considering putting more resources into VTT products? We have a lot of resources into VTT products. We just have a lot of products. We have Rifts and Pathfinder and Deadlands and Adventures and modules and pawns and all this kind of stuff for multiple platforms. So the VTT team is they're pretty large. I don't know what the number is, and they're all contractors. Pinnacle's a very small company. We only have 4 full-time employees. Everybody else works hourly or on contract, but they're pretty big, and man, are they good. I mean, the stuff they're doing, and they're very technical minded, but artistic as well. And they also play. So they have a really good handle on all the different platforms. I've been really impressed every time I've used one of their products. So do we want to throw more resources at them? I think we'd love to. I think it's about a dozen or more people already. So it is, if we continue to put out products at the rate we're putting stuff out these days, we'll have to, yes.
Yeah, well, and that came up on the Kickstarter, and I think I fielded that one earlier. But just to let you guys know, you're unaware, some of the VTT platforms handle their own conversion of our material. So we give them the book, and then they handle creating it for their platform. Other platforms, we have an in-house team who creates the material that becomes on those platforms. And I think someone was asking about deadlines and dates and that stuff. We roll those out as soon as they're ready. And so the team is working. There's multiple different teams. So there's a team that's working on Rifts right now. There's a team that's doing Deadland stuff. So none of the things that you want are being held up by that diversity in teaming. It's just there's really different requirements depending on how many more rules we put into place versus what's on their platform. So it's not really obvious which things are going to become ready or not sooner or later. But the team is pretty dynamic on that. They're keeping they keep shifting their focus to, hey, we've got this product's up to this point, we need to hear back from the VTT folks on getting this implemented or whatever. So pretty much everything is coming as fast as humanly possible. But yeah, giving you guys a date, I mean, we release them when they're ready. That's kind of we don't hold anything back and then wait for a release date. And I think most companies that give you dates in like several months in the future don't do the kind of community feedback we do with releasing the books and getting the feedback. And so that's kind of yours.
And it's also just we like I said, we're a small company, and we've had some crazy growth the last 2 years, and we're trying to take advantage of that. But I'm still the bottleneck. I still have my hand in every single thing we release, and we're that's good and bad, right? It's good because it has one vision, and if you're here, you're probably at least half happy with that vision. But I want more people, and we've been able to do it with Rifts and Pathfinder. We've got good, strong leads there who maintain a vision for those lines, and I really just come in and play and give some advice here and there, and help work on a few rules things. But those guys handle it really well. But we lost Matt Cutter for on Deadlands last year, and I've had to take over on that. Matt's still doing great. He's writing a novel, and he's got some other big things in the works. He's got an agent and all kinds of fancy stuff. Great guy. So, we're just trying to manage all these things and keep up with, with Deadlands. Deadlands is our flagship game. It does the best for us. I would love to put out, way more than we do for it. But we just, it's a bandwidth thing. And like everybody here, I get interested in something, and we go off and do that for a while, or there's an opportunity like with Savage Pathfinder that we just have to do. But like, for God's sake, the Legend of Ghost Mountain, which is our, kind of mystical samurai game that Daryl Hayhurst just finished for us. I thought of that when I saw Kung Fu Panda. So that's been out there a while.
Well, right, and now you can work in Shang-Chi into it, so it's current and historical. Right. We got a great question on YouTube. How did you manage to make the new power system handle high cosmic powered characters?
It's really, I think it did before, and it's really just a matter of how high do the levels go. Like flight, you can go all the way up to faster than light travel. And early on in the original power system development, the first edition, Clint Black came up with the whole power limits thing. And power limits is a great way. So, if you're power level 4, which is 45 points, the 4 color level, or else that would be heavy hitter. You're stopped at 15 is your max for any power, unless you take the best there is edge. So we put near FTL flight at 16 points, right? So unless you knock it down with modifiers or something, you just can't get it, and that tends to keep it in the realm of what you would expect in like a Marvel Knights comic series, is going to have certain level villains and heroes and so forth. But occasionally Dr. Doom will drop by and you got to deal with it. Or one character will have an extraordinary power, but maybe not be so good at other things. So I think the point system itself, and particularly power limits, handles that pretty well. But Necessary Evil 3, and I will answer your question, Civil Savage, it is cosmic level. I played the Black Hole. It was hilarious, and I had all these crazy gravity powers and could fly it faster than the speed of light, and oh my gosh, it was an amazing campaign. Daryl Hayhurst wrote it, and we're working on it. So when's it coming out? We have actually assigned one of those 4 mystical full-time staffers to putting it into layout and getting it fixed up and ready to go. And we're looking at maybe being able to update Necessary Evil 1, which has been out of print for a long time, and updating Necessary Evil 2 as well, and doing them all together. But I don't know that will happen. We'll certainly get Necessary Evil 3 out, hopefully by middle of next year. But with luck, we can do all of them. And if you awesome people keep supporting stuff like you've done the Superpowers Companion, I would love to hire one more person. We're looking for a finisher, somebody who can come in and do proofing on our books near the end. and do, like, when we get all that feedback you guys give us on the forum, we have a huge spreadsheet that we go through, and right now it's either me or the line editor that does them. And if we could have an extra set of fingers on a keyboard and eyes on the page who understand the rules, and which ones to say, hey, this is dead on, this one is good, but we need to change how you think we ought to fix it, that kind of thing. We need another pair of hands there.
Yeah, similar question. Are there any plans for adventure books in mind for Swayed Superpower? So, like, obviously, Necessary Evil 3 would be a whole plot point campaign and all that stuff, or some comic licenses, perhaps?
So I think I've mentioned this before, but I had in my hands a couple of years ago a contract with Marvel for a brand new RPG, and the terms just didn't make sense for our industry. And the people that we worked with were, there's different divisions, and this was not the publishing division. This was not the guys who work on comics. They were more like the guys who approve T-shirts and stuff, and it just didn't make sense. So we've decided since then, if Marvel or DC made sense, we would absolutely do it, because I'm a fanboy. I mean, look at my shirt, look at my shelves. I love this stuff. But Matt Forbeck, my former partner at Pinnacle, is working on a new Marvel RPG right now. So I don't think that's in the cards. I don't think we have one of the new things in Supers is in the setting rules. We talk about which specific setting rules and add a few new ones to do things like The Boys or Invincible, right? If you want to make like a dark, gritty, gory Supers game, or a really kid-friendly Batman the Animated Series kind of game, stuff like that. So you're going to be able to do those things on your own very easily. If if one of those licenses landed in my email box, we would certainly give it attention, because what we do is what makes sense for us to do, and I'm in love with. If I don't, if I'm not in love with it, we probably won't do it, because I have to drive this stuff, and I got to write a bill for a check for 10,000 books to land in the warehouse. So it's just hard to be excited about, or to drive a project through, if me or at least one of the other full timers doesn't have a real passion for it. But if they come up, we'll do them. I love them.
Do you want to spoil a little bit about? There's going to be a kind of a Supers property that gets mentioned in this SPC, but it's going to be a bigger thing later on. Do you want to mention that?
Yeah, I will mention that. Okay, so we have a property we've been working on for a couple of years. We even have a board game to go with it, a really good board game designed by Mike Barbeau. And the property is called Doomguard. And the kind of elevator pitch is it's Supers versus Cthulhu, right? But we've gone way beyond that. Aaron Acevedo and his crew originally thought it up. We changed a few things from what they had created into what it is now. And we lay the seeds for it in the Superpowers Companion by including them as some of the NPCs and supergroups. But the Doomguard is kind of like existential Avengers. So when there is an existential threat to the planet, when something's going to wipe out the Earth or civilization, heroes and villains come together. And it does actually take place in the Necessary Evil world after the Vasori invasion. So we are going to release the Doomguard setting sometime next year after NE3. There's also an NE4, by the way, that we will eventually get out as well. But Doomguard will be your superhero setting, right? It's going to be more traditional, various levels, except that the threats tend to at least end up being, these big world-ending events. So I also hope we can do the board game. Board games are tricky for us. We're known as an RPG company, right? And when an RPG company tries to launch a big board game with lots of miniatures and so forth, it can be pretty tricky. And we want to make sure that we not only are successful and actually, release the thing after we've invested all this money in it, but that it has everything we want in it, is as good as it should be. The miniatures are amazing. It's got to have all the right stuff. And we're not quite sure how to do that yet, but that's the plan. We'll release the setting, we'll do the board game, and it'll be kind of our premier super setting from that point forward. And the Vasori invasion of Necessary Evil will be part of its history.
See, look at all these good announcements. I got a question way back from the beginning. I think I can handle this one. Scott Crossan asks, can we see some examples of the new and revised powers? So there's going to be a feature in Endworld coming up, we believe, that'll spoil some pages in the book that will include some of the powers. That would be the best shot, your first shot of looking at those. And I think Shane's got some other spoilers he's going to show us tonight on screen. I'm not sure it's going to be new and revised powers, but maybe some new art. So
yeah. So you want to do that now?
Sure, why not?
Let's do it. Okay, so let's see if I mess this up here. I'm going to share screen. Now let's make sure I get the right screen. Screen 2. Nope, I want screen 1. We'll go screen 2. Okay, so the cover we have on the book right now is from Suede. But this is the core art. You'll see it in the trade dress and the book design later on from Aaron Riley, who I think most of you know from our many other projects, including Rifts, Lankmar, Suede. He didn't do Suede. Flash Gordon. So that's it. That's red on the cover, of course, and she is fighting the Ice Queen. So it's kind of a fire and ice theme going on there. And I don't know if you can see it big enough on the screen here. What's it look like, Chris?
Let's see. Maybe if you resize your window a little more wider.
It's on my vertical monitor. Let's see. Let me. Okay, I tell you what. Let me stop sharing. Sorry, everybody. I'm going to move your window to my vertical screen. And this ought to do it. Yikes. There we go. Yeah, so you'll see that, in the trade dress that we're going to have for all the companions soon. But, I think Aaron Riley is just an amazing artist. He does, WotC stole him. He's doing Magic cards and D&D stuff now. Those bastards. But, we love the guy, and anytime we can get his work, he has committed to us for all of the companions. So we're going to get some amazing Aaron Riley art for all that stuff. But I mean, just look at the energy he puts into these things. And, that fire looks like real fire, and the ice looks like ice. And he's just an amazing guy, amazing artist.
Yeah, and for all of us who've had to hear the Frozen soundtrack over and over again over the last 2 years, it's a fantastic bit of like, yes, please, something else besides. Oh yeah, I love it. That's the first time I got to see that. That's pretty awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah. Let me share something else that's kind of cool. This is not in the game, and it is not something we're doing, but you might enjoy seeing it. So a few years ago at one of the Colorado game conventions, I got to play, in a Marvel versus DC game by a guy we call Cal. And it was just fantastic. I loved it. So I came up with my own version of it, and it was kind of the dark heroes from DC and Marvel. So it was the Justice League Dark versus the Midnight Sons and Daughters. So again, this is not something we're publishing. I don't have the rights to this. I can't give you the character sheets or anything, but I wanted to show you this is what I made with the old Superpowers companion. These were the character sheets I handed out at the game. And one of the things that I'm proud of as a designer is that all of these characters were very easy to make using the old edition, and they're even easier now.
Yeah, that was an epic game to watch. I mean, I remember coming down and there was, how did you run 6 or 8 people on a side on that one? There were a lot of players.
It's 5 per side.
5 per side. Okay, players, so 10 players. That's a lot of players run. But there was a whole crowd just watching and cheering. And I think that was the first time I really saw power stunts. Really, how cool those are as a mechanic and how powerful they can be.
Right. So let me talk about that for a minute. Actually, give you one last look here. I think Doctor Strange looks just gorgeous there. I mean, this art Marvel has is just fantastic, right? Okay, so in the game, it's called Convergence Crisis. And if you're familiar with the comics, there was a time when Another world was about to enter into a planet was about from another reality was about to hit the world of 616, the core Marvel world, right? And they were converging, and the Avengers had to stop it, and so on. And then, of course, there's Crisis on Infinite Earths over on the DC side, where they kind of rearrange their worlds and so on. So I came up with this convergence crisis, and what's happening is that is happening. Crisis on Infinite Earths and the convergence are going on, and the Justice League and Avengers are fighting that up on the surface. But down below, Doctor Strange has come up with a plan to go into the underworld and knock out the Pillars of Eternity, which will sever the ties of that other world from the physical realm and save your world, right? Dr. Fate comes up with the same idea in the DC world. So I have these two huge maps, and I got these cake-topping pillars, and the heroes have to run around and knock down the other team's pillars to separate their reality and make their planet just, vanish and pass through. But Constantine is given a secret. And if he goes around and does certain ritual things on the board, he can prevent that crisis and save both worlds. But the trick is he can't tell anybody what he's doing. If he does, the magic won't work, right? So I always give this to a more experienced player because it's really hard. He's not particularly tough. And when you're running around with, Man-Thing and Ghost Rider after you, it's pretty tough, right? But a couple of times, a guy like, Jack Emmert, my former boss at Cryptic Studios, who did City of Heroes and City of Villains, he solved it. I think it's been solved like 3 or 4 times now out of maybe a dozen that I've run.
Yeah, you ran it on the cruise, right? So
I did run it on the cruise. That's where I think Jack played.
Yeah.
So if he does it in time and can solve these certain rituals, then he saves everybody. But you're right. What's really cool about it is it's a really desperate thing. As they're knocking down your pillars, it's also taken away the group bennies that Doctor Strange and Doctor Fate can dole out, right? So you get less and less bennies you can hand out, and because they're the leaders of each faction. And the bennies are critical, not just for rerolls, but for power stunts. So in the old edition and in a new edition, we do this and even more with them. You can actually use your powers to mimic other powers, much like you might in a comic book, right? So let's say Human Torch doesn't have a healing power, but if you suffered a grievous wound, maybe he could, cauterize it with his flame, right? So in game terms, I would pay a Benny and use my energy control fire to mimic the healing power and heal you. You can do all kinds of cool stunts like that. So one of the ones that springs to mind, there was a 17-year-old girl that played in one of the Colorado conventions, and she caught on to this really quickly. I believe her name was Quinn. If you're out there, you were amazing. And she figured out Man-Thing was stuck in one of the off-map. There was some off-map things you could do, and he was stuck down there. She was playing Swamp Thing. And she realized she didn't have the speed to get to where she really needed to be to save her team, right? But she had plant control at level, 12 or 16 or something really high. So she decided she would spend a Benny to use a power stunt to turn that into speed to get to where she needed to go. So she described and narrated, and it was just like a comic book, right? He's reaching forward. The plants are propelling him forward. Vines are growing through the swamp. He bursts up through the Hellgate, because that's how you had to transfer between the maps, and arrives at the scene where he had to knock the pillar down or save a pillar or whatever he did. And it was just beautiful. And that's what's so cool about power stunts, because it's not just how well the rules and eking out every little +1 or whatever. It's, can you narrate something cool? And everybody at the table, even the ones that she screwed over, was like, wow, and they're screaming, and it was so awesome. And that's what you just love to see, both as a game master and a designer. So power stunts are a huge deal in our game. You're never restricted to just your powers, as long as you have a couple of bennies and a little imagination.
Yeah, and that's really about balance too, right? I mean, that allows you to maintain balance. And people are worried about the levels and stuff like that. Like the power stunts is a real good vehicle for that. Just being able to, as long as you're using your brain, and it's
right.
Not the so good. Let's see. Oh, here's a hard one from Facebook user. Glad you're anonymous, so we can't have to yell you. Any idea on the potential release order of the other companion books?
I'll have to answer that later. we're in good shape as far as, we ordered the layout a while ago. Carl Kiesler did those for us. Horror is amazing, by the way. And horror is probably the easiest for us to do. It needs the least updating. There's some cool new rules we'll add and update the edges, which I think I've already done. The monsters, need somebody to go through them. And then we've got a few extra cool stuff we want to add. Sci-fi is just trickier, right? I mean, there's so many different subsystems there, and we want to do something a little more narrative and fun with big dog fights, like space armadas fighting each other. Fantasy is a tricky one. We're debating. We've got one that's pretty close, but since we did Savage Pathfinder, we want to make sure that we're not just selling you the same stuff twice, right? And a lot of that has to do with what's in the bestiary, what kind of, not so much the edges and hindrances, because we went a different way in Savage Pathfinder. One thing that is more or less done in all of them that I think you'll dig are the new headquarters, bases, strongholds rules. So we call them different things in each one, but they're a narrative yet crunchy system that I think you're going to love. So in supers, that's the easiest one to talk about. You roll an advantage on a table, or choose if you want to. So it could be like, it's a mobile base like the helicarrier, the shield helicarrier or something. You roll a complication. Hey, this thing is breaking down constantly. And then you choose the form. So, you take those things together as a group and say, okay, we've got a base. Then there's a list of upgrades. And rather than having like, here's how many rooms they are and how much it costs and so forth, you choose the upgrade you want, and then you're going to roll on an encounter table. And it's going to generate an adventure that has something to do with your base. And that's kind of the price you pay, which is more narrative. So you're not going to have to pay the electric bill on your superhero base, right? But one of the encounters, for example, is that you're out of money. So you might need to take a mission from some group or person your super group finds less than desirable, or find some other way to make up the money. It's not like you're going to count it, right? You're just going to have to go on a cool quest that may be a little distasteful. And that's just one of the encounters. There's a whole bunch of them. So I think that's really fun. And you can apply that same model to all the different genres, that we're doing companions for. So in a fantasy, you might have to go and patrol the kingdom because bandits are ravaging the place or whatever. So it's a narrative system, but it's got crunch. I mean, the upgrades that you buy give you stuff. Some of them actually even give you extra power points. So there's cool stuff to be had there.
Yeah, here's a good question from Endear. Will there be an immortality modifier for regeneration for characters like Deadpool or the old Wolverine?
So there's already the ageless power, which I would just buy on top of the super fast regeneration.
That does it. That's easy.
I think.
Another quick one from Civil Savage for both of us. What is your favorite power from the SBC? I've got one. So animals are hilarious in Savage Worlds. I've got so many great stories of animals that just I don't know, they always steal the spotlight. So there's two really cool ones. There's Animal Companion, and then I think Animal Control is the name. So those are the two first ones that I'm like, okay, at least they're balanced now. So my one thing with having animals in Savage Worlds is you don't want to be the game master that kills a player's dog, right? So characters kind of cheat, right? They're like, oh, I have an animal, but are you spending the points to give it the wild? Is it a wild card? Does it have the wild die? Can it roll wounds and soak? Because otherwise, if it's just an animal, like something you buy off the shelf, so to speak. But don't buy dogs off the shelf. But they're really it's lethal, right? It's really easy to just have any kind of combat. If it's not a wild card, it's probably going away. But the game masters don't want to kill your dog. So yeah, I've never been that player who's totally abused that and had like the superhero dog there. But here, finally, you have one that's balanced. You have to pay for it, and it's part of your character. And so that also means you get to spend your bennies on it. And that just works better in a RPG than. So that's my favorite.
Yeah, right. And they're more or less as they were before, but there are definitely some new modifiers. There's a different cost. They're cleaned up a little bit, so I think you'll find them just eminently more usable. My favorite power, it's a little one, but we didn't have a great way to, through the powers at least, you could do it through edges, to be like Deadshot or Deadpool or Bloodsport, Bloodshot from Suicide Squad. Somebody who's just really good with regular guns. You could have special guns and use the ranged attack power and so on. But we have a new one called Deadeye that any gun you pick up, you're just better with and does more damage and stuff. So that's pretty cool, and it's really good in like a street level or pulp level campaign, especially if you can pick up a regular gun and be as effective as a low level ranged attack without having to put your power points in it, so you can put them somewhere else, and that's pretty cool. When we played NE3, some of the powers that I saw the other players using were pretty hilarious. So let's see if I can get this right. Simon Lucas played a guy using the copycat power, and he would constantly just make a whole bunch of himself, right? And we're flying around in space and stuff. And the way it works now is if one of them is killed, you can resummon them, but you can't resummon them for an hour, right? And in the middle of a combat, that's a huge deal. So you have to constantly just wink them out of existence before, if you think they're in imminent peril, right? Which takes, I think it's a limited free action now. So he would summon these guys, and then he would wink them out of existence. And it came to be kind of a running joke that they would just look at him like, "Oh my God, you're going to send me back to the negative zone," or whatever it was. But they kind of took on a life of their own, and we started giving them names, and it was hilarious.
Simon killing everything is kind of like the theme whenever, I mean, when 2 years ago when I came and we played that Mafia board game, and in one round, Simon put every token on the board, every character in the East River. Simon, you are such a murder hobo.
Bloodthirsty Brit.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's so demure, and it's
always the quiet ones.
Right, it is. It's totally. Let's see. Any other good questions, guys? Let's see. Yes, we definitely talked about Necessary Evil 3, which is fantastic. And then I think Shane spoiled there might even be a 4. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yes, to avoid copyright, you can run the Nocturnal Flying Mammal Man versus Overpriced Milk Guy, which I think also answers one of the previous questions on why we didn't have a 40K stretch goal. Just avoiding copyright issues on 40K, guys. It's the only reason we didn't have one. And
actually, let me talk about stretch goals for a minute, because I saw somebody bring this up on Facebook. The issue was something about, our first few stretch goals were every 2,500 or 5,000 or whatever, and then they jumped up because we had a big first day. So I want to clear up a misconception. The stretch goals are based on, to some degree, are based on what we can afford and know we can do, or are willing to just go ahead and make and hope they sell, right? But we kind of have a list of about how much stuff we can make, even at the, if we had $100,000, and we just need to stretch those out to, I'm going to admit it completely, to keep people interested and show you that, we're paying attention. We appreciate that you're paying attention, and tell people about it. And the more you do, the more we can reward. So it's not strictly a pennies to paper kind of computation about when those things come out. And I don't ever want to lie about it, right? We always want to be transparent about it. Just like we say in every Kickstarter fact, we're going to print this book anyway, right? We don't have to have your money to print it, but if you help us hit these stretch goals, we get to make other stuff. And it's also, I've seen people say, well, cards cost X amount to print and so forth. Sure, but we've got to pay, X $100 for the art. We've got to pay the time to do the layout, to do the play testing. Somebody's got to write up every single archetype we do and give it at least, a round table edit, if not, some play testing. So, don't take for granted a new archetype card. It's a lot of work for somebody. And, not to sound defensive about it, but we offer the book for a flat price, and all the other stuff is extra. So if you're complaining that there aren't enough extras, maybe we're not for you, right? Because I think we offer a hell of a value on top of the book itself.
Yeah, and we did notice too. I mean, like during the last Kickstarter, I think during Pathfinder, right, that we had a whole bunch of day one stretch goals that we just retroactively opened up, and we noticed that there was a lot of cool stuff in there. People didn't talk about it as much because it wasn't a goal. It was already a fait accompli. And that's kind of the thing. The important thing for us is we want the feedback on that. We want to see what you guys are excited about. So when we opened up a whole bunch of stretch goals that were, if they aren't actually stretch goals and they're not in the future, you guys just don't talk about them and give us the feedback we want. So that's also part of it too. It's just that all of the these aren't pre-orders. And I know people are like, oh my God, these are just pre-orders. If we did a pre-order, we wouldn't worry about what extras, whatever. It'd be, this is the book we're going to ship. We're done. And the fact that, I can vouch 100% when we unlocked, the last stretch goal, Shane literally had to put an art order in to make sure we had the art for those cards. So that is one of those things where, it wasn't done before. It wasn't a fait accompli already. Obviously there's calculations going in beforehand, but it is a communal process. So that's why we don't just open this up for sale. Like, we could easily just do that on the website, post it for sale and say, hey, everybody buy it on the first day. But the reason we don't is that feedback process is really important to us. It does make the books better. I think you'll notice that we put out a lot fewer errata than a lot of other companies because that happens during that, between the crowdfunder ending and the PDFs going to the printer. We solve a lot of that problem there, and that's easier for us too. It's so much better for us to edit the projects while they're fresh on your mind and our mind than to go back 6 months later and be like, okay, what was the errata again? What problems did we need to fix? Where are we? So avoiding those issues, I think, is a pretty good thing. So that's all part of the kind of community thing. So
exactly, and we want that printed book as perfect as possible as well, right? Because again, we play, and about the crowd feedback. When I was working on City of Heroes and City of Villains, we would do these huge company play tests where 100 people would stop working for an entire couple of hours to play test some big raid. And yes, the raid itself only maybe lasted half an hour, but it takes a couple of hours because the software is still being developed. There's always glitches and we've got to get everybody started and yada yada yada. But anyway, we'll play that and come up with all kinds of good feedback that we designers go and implement and make better. But even then, even if you're at a large company like Cryptic was at the time, 120 some people working on COH and COV, that is that many combinations of powers and characters. When you put it out to the 250,000 people who used to subscribe to City of Heroes, now you've got all these different combinations of powers and abilities, and all of a sudden this thing makes this other thing break, and it's just a whole different process. Same thing with our games. So we played through, like I mentioned earlier, I ran in horror at Headstone Hill, and we found all kinds of stuff when we fixed it. And then once other people started playing it, it brought up a few other little issues that we were able to fix before it went to print. And that's awesome, right? Because, I want that box set to, to be in existence for years and years and years and not have to issue another one that's, all different. Same with rules books, right? We actually hate making new editions. We try not to. The game that you have in your hand right now, Suede, is it's pretty similar to what we made in 2003. There's definitely improvements. For God's sake, the production values alone are 10 times. But we play them too. We don't want lots of errata. We want it to be as good as possible. So that crowd feedback as well, which is a part of the crowdfunding process, is just critical for all of us. So thanks.
Yeah, and that goes back up. One of the early questions, I think, way back when, I don't think I'll go find it, but it was asking about, hey, on your website, some settings have edit documents out already and other settings don't. Is there a rationale behind that? And I think the short answer for that is some of the previous settings have like major things that break that we need to make sure we fix, and a lot of other ones are very in line with the new editions. So I think we prioritize that. I don't think there's much more logic behind that. Otherwise, it's just that if we know that there was a major a power or a mechanic in the previous edition that got changed with Suede or got changed with an update, we were sure to put out those conversion documents. But as Shane said, a lot of the stuff just still plays perfectly fine. Like if it plays perfectly fine. I know, like, we looked at like Buccaneer as an ace. There wasn't a whole lot that we needed to change because everything was just based upon the core rules, and where core changed, it was fine. So I think that's the reason that there are some documents that don't. So there's no other rhyme or reason or meaning behind what documents have been updated or not. it's similar with like Necessary Evil. Obviously, if we're going to do a whole new edition of Necessary Evil, that'll be coming out in the future. So
you're talking about the Suede conversion docs that we've put out
yeah,
before, which why some settings don't have it. Yeah. That's, some of them are just, they've
here
been
we
out of
go.
print for a long time too, right? Like, or they don't really need them. Like Tour of Darkness doesn't really need it because you just use the weapons from Suede, and most of the edges that we created for Tour of Darkness, I think, either still work or are now in Suede because they were cool and we liked them. So it's really just that. But if you have a request for something we haven't updated yet, email info@peginc.com and we'll take a look.
Yeah, I found the comment. So Dinkelberg was writing. He's like, there is one out for 50 Fathoms, but there's not one for Deadlands Noir.
Okay, that's different. Yeah, Deadlands Noir. I don't want to do an update because A, most of it works just fine as is, but B, we'll do updates for all the Deadlands books, and like the Harrowed work differently now, right? And it would be too beefy and kind of complicated and wouldn't really get you that much. So I would just run Deadlands Noir as is, add in tests and support rules and stuff like that, the core stuff. But you could use the Harrowed rules from Deadlands or Lost Colony if you wanted to, but whatever you're most comfortable with. But we'll do a full update on those at some point. But I just don't think they need them. But if you think I'm wrong, email us.
Here we go. This is the best question. John Goff, why are you both so handsome? I'm just glad I got to play with John Goff finally. I mean, everybody, we've been trying to get John Goff to come to a local Colorado convention for 10 years. I mean, he was like number one on the list. We brought Shane out number one, and like number two was Matt Cutter and John Goff, and didn't get either of those folks. But so finally getting to play with John Goff, like life goal achieved, and he even gave me an audio book to listen to on the ride home. So thanks, John. You're a champ.
For those who don't know, John was my college dungeon master in his big Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and then later GURPS Horror. And I have said it a bazillion times, but the fact that I'm in this industry and do what I do is owed, largely to John and his influence.
Yeah, and that was kind of the cool thing about the 25th anniversary in Deadwood was that I think someone mentioned maybe it was me, but like who would have thought, right, decades ago when you guys were in a dorm room rolling dice that the two of you could have made a career out of bringing these to other people. That's just was unheard of back then, and the fact that it's been a reality today is pretty cool. So
yeah, I remember when John told me about a guy. His name was Addison, and he worked at the local hobby shop. And there was this rumor that he'd had an article published in Dragon magazine, and everybody's like, "Oh, wow!" Right? And it was a big deal. And I often wonder what happened to that guy. He was an awesome guy, but yeah. Look at us now. And then several of that group went on to do. It's weird how many people I went to school at Virginia Tech, and Blacksburg was kind of a mecca for gaming. There were a whole bunch of us, and not all started by Pinnacle, who worked in the game industry, including like Rich Baker, who worked for TSR. He went to to Virginia Tech, the Naval Academy there, ROTC. Greg Rose, that used to write for GURPS, he wrote Black Ops, I believe. The Blacksburg Tactical Research Center, John Kolb and that group, Charles Ryan, Chameleon Eclectic. There were several artists, Angel McCoy, who worked on Vampire and now works at ArenaNet, maybe, one of the big computer game companies. So there were just a whole bunch that came out of Blacksburg. Pretty amazing.
Right. Well, and the same thing is like, I mean, people who weren't in Deadwood will never get what's inside this little tube. But the similar thing, there's like a certain artist who was, just a normal up and coming guy back then, and now is commissioning stuff for hundreds of thousands of dollars a piece. So,
right.
John's comment, it just shows that even the most seemingly minor choices do change your life. So speaking of, Ryan Manley actually has a really good question, and we may as well spoil it. Yes, there will be a Halloween 2.0 this year. We're going to announce that soon. Actually, the call for game masters for Holler has already gone out, and we're going to get those guys and gals on the schedule first, just so we make sure that everybody who wants to play Holler can at least as many as possible. I mean, I'm sure many more than we had game masters, but we're going to fill the schedule with Holler games, and then we will be doing a call for other game masters. You're welcome to run supers. In fact, encouraged to. Maybe we'll get Shane to run that Midnight Suns versus Justice League Dark game. We'll see. I don't know. We'll get Shane to run something. But yeah,
tough to do online.
It is. Well, that is a kind of a weird game to run online.
10 people, yeah.
That's true. But we might get Shane to run something and stream it. But that'll be, so yeah, no surprise. It'll be still Halloween weekend, which will rebrand Halloween weekend to the end of October. And I think we'll probably go for like Thursday through Sunday. So like Thursday, we'll do some opening streams and maybe some 1 or 2 games that night. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, lots of games. So yes, there will be a Halloween 2.0. Last year was fantastic. You guys came out in droves for that. So be thinking about what you guys want to run. All Savage Worlds games are welcome. But we are going to do a lot of Holler games just because it'll be right there in the middle of the Holler Kickstarter campaign. So we're right near the end, actually. Like the campaign goes a little bit after.
Right. Holler being a new setting that we're working on, created by Tim Early, which is, what's the tagline? Appalachian Apocalypse. Yeah. So it's so good. And I can't wait till you guys see the art, because it's very different from anything else we do. And the artist is it's perfect for this setting. I think it's beautiful. I think you're going to love it.
Yeah, it's super unique. And it's different than all the art we already showed you. We showed you art last year, and same great Italian artist, but the style's been updated. And I think it's very evocative.
Yeah, whole new look.
Yeah, it's a great look. Yeah. So let's see. Any last minute questions, guys? We're already at 1 hour and 10. Let's see. Thank you from Winthrop. Thank you for making Savage Worlds. This brought me back to the role player after 15-year hiatus. Well, welcome back, Winthrop. No pressure on Shane to run. So let's see. Any other last minute questions, guys? Again, thank you so much on the campaign. We are currently sitting at, let's do a quick refresh, because you guys always come out when we do these streams. It's really crazy how many people actually show up and then back. The 1276 backers, thank you so much to all of you guys. We are well into 66K. I'm moving towards 67. So I think soon, if you guys share with your friends that you're backers, that's one thing we haven't implemented yet that Kickstarter has, is after you back, it's like, hey, can you share on Facebook that you're a backer? If you guys can do that manually, we're going to try to get you some images to do that, so it'll make it a little bit easier for you guys. But if you want to share right now, like, hey guys, I'm a super, join the campaign, and just give people a link.
You wouldn't believe how hard it is for us to reach people. Every time we end a campaign, for like a month afterwards, we get core fans who we know personally say they'd never heard, some campaign we did. So it's just so hard to cut through all the, the massive amount of stuff we all have to choose from these days. So, if you can help us, just get the word out. You don't have to pressure anybody to buy it, right? Just let them know it exists, and then they can choose. Aw, thanks, David.
Again, did you see the one, the Murder Hobo show wants you to adopt them and play bedtime RPGs?
Okay.
Here's one thing. So Shane is evil. He didn't tell me there was new art. So he mentioned it earlier in the show. But the Red and Gabe stuff, there's a new Red and Gabe art that's going to make you cry again. Anybody who cried when they saw the SP or the Suede book, there's going to be a new piece of art that's going to make you cry again. Was not prepared for that. I just saw it in the Dropbox and was like, oh my God, it's great. So that's the last little hint there for giveaways.
I'll tell you something else.
Ooh.
There's a final picture in all 5 companions that tells a whole story. It's already ordered.
I love it. I love it. That's the foresight that I'm just I'm happy to work for this company. So one question we do need to answer for folks who haven't backed yet. This is not like Kickstarter. When you make your pledge, you are charged. So it doesn't. We don't hold open your campaign and then bill you at the end. Basically, it's just like a normal checkout process. And then we are trying to implement the ability to go back and upgrade or add more. That's something that we are working on. But currently, you're billed when you check out. So that's something.
It's like Game on Tabletop, which we used before. Yeah, it's instant.
Yeah. Oh, and then Croston says 5 companions. So let's see. It's
martial arts.
Martial arts. Yeah. Supers, martial arts. Yeah.
Yep.
So good stuff. Other than that, I think we've gone an hour and 15, so we're over our budget. Shane and I have to get back to work on making sure all this good stuff is ready for you guys. That 70,000 stretch goal is the next one. So in the next couple of days, hopefully we'll unlock that, and then we'll share if there are more stretch goals with you guys. So, oh, and then yeah, Jim, we'll let Chelsea know. Chelsea's in charge of our TikTok, and I think she took a bunch of videos from Deadwood to share with you guys. And yeah, and credit scenes, right? So yeah, no more sharing, no more secrets. We're gonna let you guys go, but it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Shane, for joining us, and maybe we'll check in when we unlock some more stretch goals. So, cheers, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.